Sean Spicer, Chief Strategist Communications Director of the RNC, with me now from Trump Tower. Sean, how are you? Merry Christmas.
Good morning, Bill.
Thank you for your time here. Good morning to you. So this interview done around the same time when an executive order was signed for drilling off the Atlantic coast and also in the Arctic. How will a President Trump treat this executive order? On its face, Sean, will he try and reverse it if legal?
Well, I think, as the president-elect has mentioned several times, day one is going to be a day of immediate change coming to Washington. He's got a stack of executive orders that will both repeal some of the actions that have been taken over the last 8 years, but then also institute some of the reforms and actions that are needed. The lobbying ban, for one, is going to come in right away so that people understand that they're serving the government and this administration and not themselves. The withdrawal from TPP, the notification to renegotiate NAFTA, all of those things are going to happen day one under President-elect Trump.
Okay. That's a lot on day one. You know what President Obama did on day one? He signed the order to close Gitmo. That was January of 2009. He's coming close to it, but he will not get there at the close of his 8 years. If you say President-elect Trump has a stack of orders, what else would happen on day one, Sean?
Well, that agenda is being put together. He's got an entire team right now that is putting together proposals for him to review that will happen both day one and over the course of the first 100 days. And part of it is just a little bit of timing. He's talked about parts of Obamacare that he would reverse. He's talked about the tariff that he would impose on companies that take jobs overseas. So there's a lot of things on that agenda, and it's getting longer and longer by the day.
Okay, now, President Obama in that interview said go through Congress. It's a lot harder to reverse a law once the law was passed. What do you think of that after the past 8 years?
It's a bit ironic, but in some ways it's well taken. I think President-elect Trump is definitely going to make sure that he does that.
Okay, all right. We're just going to make an adjustment to your earpiece there. Everything okay, Sean? I was just watching you off camera. You okay? Continue.
All good. All good. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, so now President-elect Trump goes into the White House on the 20th of January. Okay, and now you have a case where the Democrats are reeling. I think you could probably use that word based on the election and some of the fallout. Chuck Schumer fired the staff in the Senate office responsible for media. And you sent out this tweet. You said the following, Sean, on screen. Someone is not in the holiday spirit. Senator Schumer fires video unit staff at Politico at Burgess Sev. Okay. Apparently, Democrats want to reframe their message when it comes to video clips and social media. Is that the reason they lost in November?
No, I don't think that the ability of members of the Senate to send out videos of their actions or messages to their constituents is the problem. It's the message itself, it's the policies, it's the candidates that they have a problem with. And I think they've looked everywhere else but the mirror to understand the problems that they faced on November 8th. And at some point, I think that's going to happen. But they've blamed the FBI, they've blamed every segment except themselves, their message, and their policies. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Remember when President Obama said he's got a pen and a phone?
I do.
You've spent a lot of time around Mr. Trump. What has he said about that comment?
Well, it's not just what
that form of government, Sean.
It's not just what he says, it's what he does, right? And if you look at President-elect Trump, what he did in particular with Carrier, he picks up the phone, he gets things done. This is the kind of guy that it's not just what you have, it's how you use it. And I think that's a very, very different way of managing than we've seen in particular. President-elect Trump's the kind of guy who gets things done. He holds people accountable. He lays out the vision, the goal, and then he tells people what he expects of them to get that done. And if it doesn't do it, he holds them accountable. So I think not only on day one, in the first 100 days, but in the first 4 years of a Trump administration, there's going to be a lot of change coming to not just, small little things here and there, but a very, very fundamental re-look at how government works for the taxpayers and putting the American people first.
Got it. Last thing, is there a decision on press secretary or not yet, Sean?
At this time, he has not made any announcements on any additional staff.
Sean Spicer, thank you, sir, from the RNC Trump Tower today. Thank you, Sean. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.